The Center for Disability Empowerment is a 501c3 non-residential organization that supports all people of any age with any disability. We do this through various programming and also our five core services, which include information and referral, independent living skills training, peer support, advocacy, and transition services. And with that, I go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Deb Peterman.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us tonight to talk about a program that I actually love. It's called the Ohio 811 Project Rental Assistance Program, and that's 811, not 811. I am a referral agent for this program, and I am the transition coordinator, community connector for the Center for Disability Empowerment. And it's an honor to help people get placed in homes that are accessible, and just to find a home sweet home is amazing. Last year I was able to place 11 people during the pandemic, which I thought was amazing. Didn't know that we would keep this program going, and it just keeps on ticking. I do want to tell you the story that we had placed a 25-year-old who I met over the phone. She was needing help with housing, and she was living in Dayton on a friend's couch. And we got her to Columbus with another program. And when she was, when her time came up, the phone call came and said, we have a 811 unit for her. We went to visit it, and she started crying. She hasn't had her own place in years, and has been on her own since the age of 18. So she is healthy now. She wanted to come back to Columbus to be near her surgeons. She is an amputee, and she's thriving. So I couldn't say more about this program. So I want to introduce two people who are very knowledgeable about this program. And first of all, I want you to meet Jeanette Walsh. She's the housing manager with residential resources with the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, and Kevin Clark with the Ohio 811 Project Portfolio Manager with Ohio Housing Finance Agency. So we're going to prepare a video for you to see that is the basics of what how this program works, and then Kevin will take it from there, and then we will after that we'll let them share the program, and we will have a Q&A at the end.
The Ohio 811 Project Rental Assistance Program, also known as the Ohio 811 Program, is the first statewide interdepartmental rental subsidy program specifically created to assist Ohioans with disabilities and extremely low incomes. The Ohio 811 Program's mission is to increase the availability of integrated community living options for people with disabilities and to make those living options more affordable. The Ohio 811 program is available to people aged 18 to 61 who have a qualifying disability, an extremely low income, and are eligible for Medicaid services. This program is funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and administered by the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, or OHFA, and its partners. So how does the Ohio 811 program work? OHFA works with the property owners and developers of affordable housing throughout the state to ensure apartments are available to the program. This is just one piece of the puzzle. Another piece is identifying eligible Ohioans who want to live independently and helping them access those affordable housing options. To accomplish this, a partnership of the Ohio Department of Medicaid, the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, and the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services coordinates with local agencies to identify those who qualify for the Ohio 811 program and want to live independently, and assist them with the process of applying to the program and getting placed on the statewide waiting list. These local agency partners act as 811 referral agents. When an apartment becomes available in the county where the applicant wants to live, OHFA notifies the applicant through their 811 referral agent so that they can make an appointment to view the apartment and fill out a rental application. Through this collaboration of state agencies, property owners and developers, and local referral agents, the Ohio 811 program is providing another housing option to Ohioans with disabilities who want to live independently. Learn more about the Ohio 811 Project Rental Assistance Program by visiting OHFA's 811 website.
As we just learned, the Ohio 811 program provides rental subsidy to low-income Ohioans with a disability. And the goal of the program is to increase the availability of affordable community living options. Some of the eligibility requirements were included in the video. To be eligible, an individual must be at least 18 years of age, but less than 62 years of age at the time of admission to a property. If an individual turns 62 while participating in the program, then they may continue to live in their apartment and receive rental subsidy. The program itself is disability neutral. So qualifying disabilities could include a physical impairment, a developmental disability, mental illness, or a combination of mental and physical impairments. HUD is the organization that provides the funding for this rental subsidy, and they have a list of qualifying disabilities, and it's very open, and the program is disability neutral. And I work with OHFA, the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, and we in turn work with owners and developers of affordable multifamily housing properties all around the state to secure apartments for the program. We also provide outreach and technical assistance to property owners and property managers. And we also manage the statewide waiting list, and we refer potential residents to properties. At this time, we currently have commitments from over 70 properties located in 35 counties across the state. We were able to secure these commitments with a grant from HUD that we received back in 2015. We are hoping to do up to 485 apartments, be able to fund 485 apartments with the grant that we received. And then last year, we received a second grant from HUD to provide more funding. And our goal there is to have an additional 250 units in the future. So we will be continuing to expand the program and look for additional properties to join and be part of this important program. Now, I also want to note here that the rental subsidy itself is not portable. It's only available at specific properties that were built with OHFA financing and have committed to participate in the program. So if someone comes into this program, they cannot take that rental subsidy and move to another property with it. It's what we refer to as a project-based subsidy. Now, our other partner agencies are the state departments of Medicaid, Developmental Disabilities, and Mental Health and Addiction Services. And these agencies provide outreach, marketing, and technical assistance to local organizations who work with individuals with disabilities, and they act as what we call referral agents. Now, these local referral agents, they identify potential residents, assist them with applying to the program and getting placed on the waiting list so that OHFA can later refer them to participating properties. And once they're referred to a property, that's where they can fill out an application and have an opportunity to tour that property. After an individual goes through that application process, if they're accepted and they move into their apartment, then they will pay 30% of their income toward rent each month. And the Ohio 811 rental subsidy covers the remainder. So that's an overview of the program and the agencies that help bring this to you. And now I will pass it over to Jen for her remarks.
Sure, thanks, Kevin. And Deb, thanks so much again for setting this up. We always, as Kevin said, appreciate the opportunity to talk about the program and to get out in front of different audiences. I've been working on this program since 2016, first as a representative for the Department of Medicaid, and now with Department of Developmental Disabilities. And so much has changed about the program. As Kevin said, it's a HUD program. And so there are certain tenets about it that are overseen by HUD and that are required by HUD. But Ohio really shaped this program to kind of work for Ohioans with people with disabilities. So, we had to create our own processes and policies, and we're constantly improving upon those in order to make the program effective for the people that we're serving. So I'm just going to expand a little bit on what Kevin said, mostly from the perspective of the service partner's role. We are really responsible for identifying individuals who are eligible for the program and getting them on the wait list. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about what to do while a person is on the wait list waiting, and talk to you about just how to vet individuals for this program. So I'd like to start off by just drawing a distinction between Kevin's role at OHFA and then the role of us as service partners. Again, that's Medicaid, Mental Health and Addiction Services, and the Department of Developmental Disabilities. As you saw in the video, service partners are charged with that identification piece. We are really the ones that need to market the program within the state, and we want to make sure or ensure that individuals who are eligible for the program get placed onto this wait list whenever possible. Now, we do know that the 811 apartments are in just 35 of Ohio's 88 counties so far. And we have mostly focused our marketing efforts on those 35 counties, at least since we have known where the apartments will be. But even if you are interested in it and you're not in one of those 35 counties, the program may still be of some interest. And I'll get to that in just a moment. So how do we identify eligible tenants? In our system, that is the DD system, we traditionally rely on our county boards for this and their network of service and support administrators who sometimes also work with some of the providers. The other service partners, Medicaid and Mental Health and Addiction Services, rely more heavily on nonprofits, service providers, and other agencies to find people. As you saw in the video, these boards and these agencies really make up our referral network. And as Deb told you, she is one of our referral agents too. We work with other centers for independent living as well. So they seem to be a natural fit for this program. Referral agents complete a brief training that familiarizes them with the Ohio 811 program requirements, and it's all done online, so it's pretty painless. They rely on that training then to assess individuals for the program. And when they find individuals who are actually eligible for the program and interested, then they enter their names into a platform that is a screening tool and a wait list. And it's important for me to note here that the 811 program may be not just the only option that the person is looking at. We want to make sure that all people maximize their opportunities when they're looking for affordable housing. So individuals may be placed on the 811 wait list. They might be also on a housing choice voucher or mainstream voucher wait list. They might be applying for public housing and HUD housing too, just hoping that one of those options turns out or pans out for them. Placing someone on the wait list is really kind of that first step. Once the unit becomes available in the county of a person's choice, what will happen is that OHFA will email a referral agent and let them know. The referral agent's duties really can differ here depending upon the person, the individual that they're working with. But usually the first step is pretty obvious. They'll reach out and say, are you interested in this particular unit? Gauge the person's interest. If the person's interested, the referral agent may help set up a tour. This may be done remotely, especially during COVID. They might assist with gathering documents like income and identification documents, things like that. And they may even have to assist with requesting reasonable accommodations or reasonable modifications. I want to be clear here that once someone gets onto the 811 waitlist, it's not always immediate that they are tapped for an apartment. We've had folks be on there for a very short period of time, a day or two, but most people wait much longer. So again, we kind of want you to think of this as one of other options. In some cases, the wait list in some counties is very long, and in others, it's it's very short, and we go through people sometimes pretty quickly. On average, what we've been working with is that we want to have 2 referrals for every apartment in a county, at least, because circumstances change and people sometimes have preferences. So another note about the wait list is that our wait list is on a county basis, so it's not specific to a property. That means that when an apartment in your county of interest becomes available, the waitlist manager will refer the next person on the waitlist. The person can select to either move forward with applying to the property, or they can wait for a different property if it's available. So in very big counties, we might have 7 or 8 or even more projects, whereas in a very rural county, there might just be that one. So if somebody's interested in a particular property, I think one good practice that we've been using is, especially in those big counties, to use the wait list to make a note to that effect. No need to kind of keep referring persons to a property that just can't work for them for whatever reason. In addition to screening prospective participants for the Ohio 811 program, referral agents have some more nuanced duties. They have to evaluate each referral at that property level. So what does that mean? Even when a prospective tenant checks all of the boxes for the 811 program, they're age appropriate, they have a HUD disability, their income is at or below 30% of AMGI, and they have the services that are needed to live independently, there still might be some specific questions about that arise with a particular property. So let me go through just some examples of that. So some of these factors could include the location of the building. Maybe it's located in a place where the person doesn't have any family, their natural supports aren't there, and so it's just not in the right area for them. It might not be nearby amenity, or might not have nearby amenities. So things like a bus stop or transportation. You also need to consider the building type. Some of the buildings that we work with through this program are senior buildings. That means 55 plus, just so I define that for you. And so a very young person who's on the list, that might not be an appropriate placement for that person. I mean, they may choose to not want to be in a building with people that are, in their minds much older than them. Another consideration would be, some buildings we have are smoke-free. So if a person smokes, even if they're intending to stop, that can be a tricky placement. A couple more things, accessibility features are important to weigh. We want to consider parking. I can give you an example of one situation in a very, very urban county where the building was set downtown, and there was some on-site parking, but not a lot. This person had a 24-hour provider staff that rotated, and what we tried to do is try to find a situation where they could find affordable parking, but it really wasn't panning out. As a reasonable accommodation in that circumstance, we were able to get access parking for tenants only for the provider. Very unusual situation. We were very happy that we had a pleasant outcome there, but it could have been disastrous for the tenant if their provider didn't have that parking, because it would have jeopardized their housing. So a couple more things I want to touch on before we go into our question and answer time. And one of the factors that referral agents must vet, I know Deb's had to do this before, is they need to really look at a person's credit, rental history, and they're going to look at the criminal background as well. So while any of these factors can act as a barrier to housing, the 811 program is really designed to carve people into the program and not to keep them out of housing. I mean, that's what this program is all about, is integrating individuals into community. So that said, we have some tools to work with even when a person has less than a perfect background. Properties in coming into this program, they have agreed to participate in the 811 program, and at the same time, they've agreed to consider mitigating circumstances when a person presents. And these could be things that help explain away credit or rental histories or criminal backgrounds too. Another tool that we use is we leverage fair housing, the fair housing law. And we will sometimes, as I said, request reasonable accommodation or reasonable modifications. And we're going to be doing a training, I think it's next month, myself and another individual to talk very specifically how to leverage those tools. Finally, we have an appeals process that when an individual is denied, they have certain rights. And I am proud to say that we've had a lot of success. Sadly, we've had, our share of denials, but, they were usually for legitimate reasons, but we used our mitigating arguments to really sometimes save the day and get people into housing, and quite successfully, actually. So before I wrap up, I really want to talk about two last important things that I think, if you're not in, well, I'll just go into them. So how do you identify a referral agent in your county? In my system, that is in the DD system, it's a pretty direct line. We usually have somebody who has been a dedicated staff person at the board level to work on this program if there are units in a county. So I'd say almost all of the 35 counties that we have units in, we have somebody that we could refer to. Outside of our system, that is in the mental health world or the Medicaid world, we also have a list of referral agents too, but we're working on recruiting additional agents just to make sure that we get the kind of coverage we're looking for so that we're serving all persons with disabilities that could be eligible for this program. And the other thing I wanted to just touch upon is, like, what do you do if there are no 811 units in your county? Well, first of all, I just want to remind you that 811 is a subsidy program. So even if you don't have that, you can be looking at the existing subsidy programs in your county. But you can also refer people to counties where there are units. So if you're in a county that there are no units in, and you know somebody that wants to live in a county where there are units, that's a possibility that could work. Individuals can choose up to 3 counties of interest where they're looking for housing. Another thing is, as Kevin mentioned when we first began, we did get a second grant for 811, that is the state did. And so we're going to have to locate those units. Ideally, we might put some more in the buildings where we really have strong need. But if it's possible, we may actually end up doing some units that expand our footprint across the state. And I would think that one way that decisions might be made is if we have an existing wait list in a program that shows need. So it might be a little bit of a gamble, but I don't think it's a bad idea if you want to place people on a wait list and there aren't units there yet. But do remember, again, that shouldn't be the only place that you're looking for housing for somebody. I think I said there were really 2 things, but there are 2 more things that I want to talk about, and they're very brief. So we're always looking to improve things. Our interagency team, as I said, is really looking to identify additional agents. We want to expand our network of referral agents. And so recently we put together a form that people who are interested in becoming referral agents, that they can fill out in order to apply to become an agent. And so it just makes sense that we're looking for people that, this is kind of a natural extension of the work that they do. So agencies that work around housing and help people with disabilities find housing, those would be agencies that we might want to look at. And so I'd invite questions about that later. Another thing that we're looking at is kind of resolving some of our timing issues. Right now, people get on the list and they wait for sometimes a long time, and they don't get called up until their situation is very different. Either they have found another apartment, they're happy, and even if they wanted to move, they might have to break their lease and they don't want to. Or maybe, COVID has become an issue for them and they're not ready to move. Or, it might be something entirely different. We're really trying to look at those timing issues. One term we use a lot is we talk about transforming our wait list from a wait list into something called a ready pool, so that the participants that are there waiting are people that are ready to go. So, we haven't gotten there yet, but we're really working on that issue. So I think that about covers kind of the territory that I hope to get to today. I would like to see if anybody has any clarifying, questions, and then maybe we can just open up generally.
If I may, I would love to just share what that referral process looks like. I may get a call and someone is wanting to learn more about the program, and I will ask them questions. The typical questions are, you have to be between the ages of 18 and 60. Do you meet a HUD definition of a disability? Do you get SSI, SSDI? Do you have income? In other words, do you have a current photo ID? Do you have a social security card, a current social security card award letter? So there are things that help us know that you are ready to be looking for an accessible apartment. So when I hear that you have that, we will actually go online, and it is the only time that I will ask you what your social security number is. And there are two questions that they do ask on the application. One is, have you been convicted of manufacturing methamphetamine on a government property? And what was the other one? Sexual.
Oh, when somebody doesn't qualify, it's a lifetime registration. There's actually three things.
Yes.
We can get those.
If you're a sexual offender, the registry of a sexual offender. So anyway, those are like two that come right out. And anyway, we can go through it. You get to pick what counties in Ohio you want to live. It's usually just might be 3, possibly 5. And then they'll actually ask you in that county, what cities do you want to live? And then I will ask you what your income is, what other income resources you have, which might be child support, all those kind of things. So these are questions that Medicaid wants to know about. And then once we finish the application process, I submit it and then it's reviewed. And usually I'll know a week later if you've been approved. And if you've been approved, you are put on the main waiting list. Now I keep a waiting list of the people that I have signed on, so I know who's next on my list. I do also send an email or a text of every document that person needs to be ready for the actual walkthrough of the apartment. Because typically when they go see the first apartment and you like it, they will ask you to fill the application for the apartment right there. So you want to have all your documents ready. So it shows us that you really are committed to wanting to move into the apartment. I've had people decline because they're in the hospital. They have medical reasons they can't move at that time. So there are, like Jen said, there are situations that happen. You get to pick where you want to go. You can change your mind, but I do ask that each person stay connected to me, whether through a text or phone call, email, once a month. because that is my obligation to Ohio 811 to be in constant contact with you, that we're working together. So it's a team effort. It's a wonderful program. So if you have any questions about being a referral agent, I'm welcome to answer those questions. Let's go to the questions. We got lots of them.
Yes, there are quite a few questions. So forgive me if I am repetitive in any of the questions. But first one is, what counties are these available in? Do you have a list?
There is a list of the participating properties that's available on the website address for the 811 program.
How many names are on the wait list?
We have approximately 600 people on the waiting list right now. And it's different numbers of people depending on what counties they want to live in. So the urban counties tend to have more and the rural counties tend to have fewer.
A friend of mine told me you can have your family with you. Is that the case, or is only the disabled person eligible and have to live alone?
There can be more than one person in the apartment. At least one member of a household has to have a qualifying disability and meet all the other requirements. And then the income is based on the income of all of those members of the household.
Can I just jump in? Because, however, most of the units in the program are one-bedroom units. So when the household is comprised of a married couple, this often works well because of, it'd be a one-bedroom unit, presumably. However, if there is somebody that presents that has other family members, what we usually recommend is that they wait till their name comes up on the wait list, and then sometimes they'll ask for a larger unit. And I don't know if we've successfully negotiated that because we haven't had a lot of families that have actually applied, but it's not something that we are dead set against doing. So so apply.
Yeah, we did have one case where we substituted a 2-bedroom unit for a 1-bedroom unit. In order to do that, the property owner has to agree to do so, and we have to then amend our contract with that property. So it's not a guarantee, but it's something we can try to do when the situation presents itself.
What if, I think you guys answered this question already, but what if you would consider living in multiple counties? Can you be on list in more than one county?
Yes. When someone is placed on the list, they can select up to 5 counties where they want to live. They can just select one county if that's the only one where they do want to live.
To add to the above question, can the qualifying disabled individual have a roommate, not a family member, if it is a direct need due to disability?
The answer to that is, a person can ask for a reasonable accommodation to have a live-in caregiver stay with them. Another way to look at it is a person who wants to live with another person who is not necessarily in that role of a live-in aid. They can, apply, but the household income needs to be at that level that's acceptable for the program. So sometimes combined incomes can be an issue. So really it comes down to whether that second individual is actually a roommate or a caregiver. And if it's a roommate situation, we have that compounding issue where we're going to have to find a 2-bedroom unit. So these are not situations that don't happen, but sometimes, we have to sort of get them through one hoop at a time.
I haven't had very many, if at all, 2-bedroom apartments.
So there is no legal requirement?
This is a lease. This is a 1-year lease that people sign, if that's the question.
Yes, the properties are privately owned and managed, and everyone who lives there does have to sign a lease with a minimum term of 1 year, as Deb said.
Can Medicare totally disabled applicants apply?
That's an interesting question because right now, in our screening criteria, we ask that individuals are on Medicaid. But, you know, since the program has rolled out and we've been looking at people and evaluating people, it has come to our attention that there are people that could qualify for this program that their income is still at that 30% or lower level. Maybe they have a combination of SSI and SSDI or even SSDI, but I think we are maybe going to take a look at that. That's something that has been under discussion. The most important point here is that people's medical insurance, no matter whether it's Medicaid or if it were Medicare, it has to be substantial enough. It has to be able to provide them with the services to live independently. So I don't mean to hem and haw on this one, but I think we are going to look at that. So stay tuned.
It says, I may have missed this, but what is the upper income to be eligible?
Okay, the upper income is it's 30% of the median income for the county. So that number is different in different counties. It tends to be higher in urban areas. I don't know offhand what that is in particular counties, but it is.
I have some idea. I think on the low end of things, it's around 13,000, and on the high side, it's just over 18,000. So it does, there's quite a range depending upon whether, as Kevin said, it's a very rural county versus, a very urban county.
I am with Franklin County Board of DD. I have an individual on the Ohio 811 waitlist since October 2020. Does that waitlist have 485 slots? When might this individual be contacted?
I mean, we really don't know exactly when someone will be contacted. It depends on when a unit becomes available. We have properties that are under construction, and when those come online, all of those units are made available to individuals on the waiting list. We have some other properties that are where all of the apartments are filled right now, and we have to wait until there's an opening, until someone moves out, in order to refer someone from the waiting list. So it really depends on a lot of different factors, and it's very difficult to predict when the exact time when an apartment becomes available.
Yeah, so what happens is Ohio 811 will send a referral agent an email, and they'll say, hey, John Jones has an apartment unit available, and it will give me the address. And then I will call that person, very excited, to say, hey, there's a unit available, and we have 10 days to go and visit the place. If you want to do a virtual tour, or sometimes people will drive by and look at it, but you have 10 days to actually look at it. So I'm surprised, just like the person I'm calling, I'm the first person to know, and then they are. So we don't know when those units become available.
I would liken it a lot to, your local housing authorities wait list, that, when something becomes available is when you're notified. This becomes very tricky, I realize, with people that have an imminent or immediate need to find a place. It doesn't necessarily work well for individuals in that predicament. So we kind of try to sell this program as sometimes like a move-up strategy. Maybe somebody's living in supportive housing, or they're living with roommates, or they're living with family. And so they have the flexibility to be able to sort of wait until a unit becomes available. But and another thing we have had counsel people through is, if somebody is in a current lease, they've already moved, but it's not especially affordable for them, and they would really like to have the subsidy offered to the 811 program. We can take a look at the lease, or we can have, counsel you through looking at the lease, because a lot of times there's a special provision in the lease that allows somebody to break it for a smaller fee. And then there's also the landlord has the duty to mitigate damages. So, you know, if a person just signed a lease and they are on it for 10 more months or something like that, you know, they could offer to say, you know, I'll try to help you find another person to fill it, but then also leverage that lease provision in there about breaking the lease. You know, it's really case by case and based on what the person has in their lease. But we've been able to get people through that before. But you know, definitely don't hesitate to ask questions.
Let's see here. Next question is, how far back does the credit and background check go? Under 5 years, under 25 years?
That really depends on the individual property and what their policies are.
Yep.
Yeah, true enough. Fortunately, though, you know, as I mentioned, and I didn't go into this in great detail, but OHFA has a special tenant selection plan that every participating property agrees to abide by. And in that plan, we really address things like rental history and credit. In the case of rental history, we want landlords to think about the case that, you know, a lot of people are actually evicted, and that is the black mark on their background. And a lot of times that eviction is for non-payment. But, you know, had that person had a subsidy, they might not have been evicted. So those are the kinds of arguments that we make when we are presenting those mitigating circumstance cases. Similarly for credit, I mean, people may have, you know, poor credit or even owe sums of money. It's been a long time. And the context for that might be that, you know, this happened a long time ago. At the time, the person did not have somebody, you know, managing their money, or, you know, they weren't on medication, whatever the circumstances or mitigating factors might be. We can present that, and we can offer ways to sort of refocus their attention on, you know, where the person is today versus where they might have been before. On the criminal side, most of the times they don't look too far back for minor infractions. We always require them to look at or distinguish between a conviction versus a charge. I mean, people can be arrested and they can then be, you know, something can be dismissed. So we certainly don't want that to be held against them. And we always bring that to their attention if in fact that's what's happening. So we have a lot of tools is what I'm trying to say.
You know, I encourage people to be honest. You know, it's going to come up in, you know, in the background check. So be ready when you go see the apartment with your story.
And that's an excellent point. I mean, we can raise it in the context of a reasonable accommodation if the reason is linked to the person's disability, but we can just, like you said, be honest up front. And if it, you know, I think that's a lot of times what properties are looking for. Honestly, sometimes people aren't the best reporters or they don't remember, you know, and so they're not trying to hide something. It just, you know, might come up, you know, when the credit check or the background check comes back. But, you know, people are, most times the property managers are very rational on these matters, very reasonable.
I want to address something just about the specifics of in the apartments. These are supposed to be wheelchair accessible apartments. So they have the wide doors. Some of them have roll-in showers. Some of them have the tub with the grab bars. So they're, you know, the needs are asked during the application process. To sign up for this program, it is an online application that only the referral agent can do. You cannot go online and fill out an application. So you, I'm sure Jeanette can tell you how to identify a referral agent, or you can, you know, contact me. But also, you know, if you have a dog, if your doctor can say it's an emotional support pet, actually have a letter that says so. you can have that pet stay with you. They do have limits, usually 2. So those are just some things that came in my mind. Okay, Jamie.
Okay, next question. I work for Community Support Services in Akron, and I am a case manager there. How do I find a referral agent? Am I eligible to do the referral agent training?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know if the person can unmute and tell me, but I'm not sure if community support services is what population, because I know of at least one community support services that works more on the homeless mental health side. If an agency works within the developmental DD system, we really go through our boards in order to do our referrals. You know, on the other sides, we are a little bit more flexible with, you know, who the referrer can be. And so just to kind of get to the nut here, I mean, the person could certainly ask for an application from us, and we could evaluate it and hopefully get them involved to make applications, or to make, I'm sorry, to apply for people.
Participant already on SSI with mental disabilities, but unable to rent because realtor requires 3 times rental rate in income. Can you help?
Go ahead, Kevin. I'll finish.
And that is something that's common in some apartments. And that's really, that kind of a policy really comes down to what each property manager is looking for.
How many 811 referral agents are there per county? Can it be an unlimited number?
You know,
I don't know the number offhand.
So on a per county basis, it really does vary. You know, we have some very large boards that take the approach that they're going to have one person in charge of 811 referrals. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not working with other people. They're working sort of as a gatekeeper for their entire board to sort of prioritize on their end, you know, who should be first on the list and so forth. But there's really no limit to numbers of referral agents that we could have in a county. You know, we just want to make sure that the people that are applying to be the referrers are kind of have the background and experience and skill set for this. There's no set number is the answer.
How are the participating properties identified? What is the incentive for them to participate?
Generally speaking, the incentive is when a real estate developer comes to OHFA to apply for other funding to actually build a property. If they commit some of their units to the 811 program, then they get a competitive scoring advantage when to secure the funds to actually build the building. So that's how we've gotten most of the properties to participate in the program.
Can remote support services be used in the housing? What if the individual has 24/7 staff?
We have worked with both of those scenarios where people are using remote supports and monitoring as well as 24-hour staff. You know, sometimes we have to, you know, make some arrangements or sometimes seek accommodations. I'll give you an example. You know, we had a situation with rotating staff, and there was only like one key fob, I think, to get into the building. So the one person couldn't leave until the next person arrived. And so what we did there was we worked with having a call button installed so that the tenant could buzz people in. So we try to get as creative as possible with trying to remove those barriers.
How do we find a contact to be referred into the program?
That is also a great question. And I think the answer is it depends. It depends on, you know, what county and, you know, what the disability type is. And usually when I think people have questions and they don't know who to go to, am I not right, Kevin, that they email your 811 box and we try to find somebody for them to speak with?
Yes, we do have a general mailbox for the program, and the mailbox address is 811 program at OhioHome.org. If you go to our website, and if you went online and you searched OHFA 811, you'll get our website and the 811 page, and the website address is listed there as well. And I just saw it come up in the chat box, and that is correct, 811 program at OhioHome.org.
Are Medicaid Ohio home health waiver clients eligible?
Yes, as long as they meet other requirements of the program, age, income, things like that.
I know several people that fall in the 3 categories, such as convictions, offenders, or drugs. Please elaborate on those.
So if a person has a criminal background, there's only 3 specific reasons why they are disallowed from applying. They're called disqualifying criteria. But other than that, I mean, people can certainly apply. We can't make any guarantees that their criminal background won't be an issue for them, getting into it. What we do assist with is that process of the appeal. So helping referral agents understand how to create, to argue these mitigating factors on someone's behalf. But it's really case by case again, and you almost have to look at everything involved. What was the drug? When did it happen? Like a marijuana charge that's 10 years old, probably not an issue. But or a paraphernalia charge, maybe not so much an issue. But if it's something else, and it's very recent, the recent nature of this conviction might be weighted more against that person. So I say always try, and then we kind of will work with you.
If I can add, the HUD disqualifying criteria, those are included in the pre-screening that the referral agent does on behalf of the potential resident. So at that point, if someone has one of those disqualifying criteria, they could not even be placed onto the waiting list.
Yeah, that's technically true. I think sometimes people end up not knowing, and then they do get placed on the list, and then of course we find out later, and then we deal with it. But
well, actually the application doesn't ask about felonies,
because that's not necessarily a disqualifying criteria. As we all know, I mean, the seriousness of a felony it sometimes is likely to be held against somebody more than a misdemeanor. But we have also found that people with felonies in their backgrounds have been accepted into this program. It just takes the right explanation.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the disqualifying criteria are very specific, and they are things that HUD tells us have to be disqualifying criteria. One of them is convicted of manufacturing methamphetamine on federal property. And the other I can think of offhand is a lifetime sex offender registration.
Does disability include those who are deaf?
Yes, it would.
And visual impairment, blind.
Our county does not have any 811 properties. How do we get on the wait list for other county properties?
Well, when a referral agent places someone on the waiting list, they can have up to 5 counties where they would want to live.
Can we be referred by our SSA at our county DD, although our county does not have any 811 properties?
Yes. To back up, obviously, then the SSA or whomever is going to make the referrals would have to be trained, do the quick online training, and then get access to our waitlist screening tool, which is SocialServe.
Where can I find the participating counties list?
There is a list of participating properties available on our website.
If released after serving their time for sexual offenders and domestic abuse pertaining to drug, oh, I believe this is probably another part to the previous question. It says, if released after serving their time for sexual offenders and domestic abuse pertaining to drug use?
Well, I'll try to answer that. I think, you know, what the person is asking is, you know, if somebody has these types of things in their background, will they be counted against them if and when they are referred to a property? And the answer is we don't really know. I mean, you know, if there's a sexual offense that requires lifetime reporting, then no, that's a disqualifying criteria. But if it's something else, then we can try. But you know, properties, you know, are naturally not risk takers. They often try to, you know, rent to people that don't have these things in their backgrounds. But the nice thing about this program is that we have what we call a low barrier tenant selection plan. So we've tried to remove some of those barriers up front so that properties are really trying, in the case of these individuals with disabilities, not to hold these things against them. So I think it's, again, just a case-by-case situation.
How many times can a person turn down or refuse an apartment when offered?
Generally, it's up to 3 times.
Hmm.
If someone turns down 3 different referral opportunities, then they are moved to the back of the waiting list.
Are you looking for additional properties? I'm an investor. Is there money available to bring a property up to become accessible?
The properties that can participate are those that received other funding from OHFA to actually build the units. Primarily we use a federal tax credit program. So if someone's a real estate developer and wants to apply for that program, there's information about it on our website. It's called the Housing Tax Credit Program. And again, that's specifically for real estate developers to build affordable housing.
I sent the 811 required documents to DODD service coordinator. And how do we check the status of a person on the list?
So we don't provide the status in terms of like how long it will take for a person to reach the top of the wait list, because we don't really know. I think that if the person is saying that they gave their SSA documents to, I guess I'm not entirely clear on the question. I probably should stop and just ask for a clarification if you think you can do that, Jamie.
Well, I want to say, as a referral agent, you know, I have my own list of people, and I can keep going back online and seeing where they are. So when I see I'm working with 3 people right now, I have an idea about when they're coming up, and I can see the movement. So I have no clue, and I know they're not. Ohio 811 is not going to tell me, which I love that fact that I know that they're being truthful, that the next person on the list is the actual next person on the list.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes,
and
go ahead, Kevin, sorry.
yeah, with over 600 people on the waiting list, and then each person can select up to 5 counties, it's really very difficult to tell who's next on the list in a particular county.
The other thing is, I've had some people be open to moving outside of Franklin County. There's a long list for Franklin County units, but if they're open to moving to other counties, it's a quick process. So that's just an FYI.
Yeah, we do actually have quite a few new units coming online in Franklin County. We have a lot of folks on the waiting list there. I think it's about 80, but we've got at least that many units so it is someplace where we're looking for more people for the waiting list.
I believe that's all the questions that I saw in the chat, but if anybody would like to ask another question, please feel free to leave that in the chat. Or if you'd like to voice a question, if you just use the raised hand feature, I can unmute you. Is there a security deposit for the apartments?
Yes, there is. It is the greater of 1 month's rent share that's paid by the resident, or $50.
Is there any security deposit assistance offered through 811?
The 811 program itself does not have assistance for security deposits.
And that's something I usually encourage my folks to start saving a little bit so they have that money.
That's it in the chat right now. I'll let you know if I see anything come up as I'm talking here.
I want to also say that typically the renter is pays for utilities. It's typically electric, sometimes water. So each property is different. And sometimes the rent might have a little subsidy of a utility in it, where the rent may be a little less than 30%.
Right, and that is what we refer to as a utility allowance. So each project has I don't know what the formula is exactly, but there will be a deduction from rent share for of the utility allowance. So in that situation, the security deposit and the rent aren't the same because the because the rent has been adjusted downward for the utility allowance.
I usually am shy of 100 to 150 to qualify for Medicaid. I can't afford 20/0 of med. I can't receive food assistance either.
Did you state this type of SSDI qualified?
Yes. Did you state this type of SSDI qualified? Mm-hmm.
You know, I would be happy to talk with this individual about their eligibility for the program or alternative options for them for housing. If you know, I don't know if you have my information in this presentation, but I'd be happy to talk with that person.
Is this program only for apartments, not home rentals?
That's correct. It's only apartments.
Someone said, I think you mentioned this, but how would someone become a referral agent?
Well, the process is pretty simple. Again, you know, if they are not already known to us, then they could put in an application through the Ohio 811 mailbox or request one and fill it out. And then, you know, if again, they have those characteristics that we're looking for to be a referral agent, it would really just be a matter of completing what is approximately 40-minute to 1 hour training, and then getting access to social serve. And the big thing is we're really looking for people here who can evaluate the factors, the threshold criteria for the program. So if they're not in a position to be able to evaluate for those things, then it's probably not a good fit.
To be clear, someone would need to choose between Section 8 assistance, HUD housing, or 811 assistance, correct?
Yes, well, that is correct. Generally, you can only use one type of rental subsidy.
Yes, it's true. I mean, we have had situations where people have asked to be placed on the 811 wait list, and they have a portable voucher, so a housing choice voucher, sometimes called a Section 8 voucher. And we really ask people to think long and hard about whether they want to do that. You know, again, in our program, the subsidy is tied to the specific project. So there are other avenues to get into, you know, tax credit properties. You can use a voucher to get in. So I guess what we're saying here is that, as Kevin said, you can't have more than one voucher or one subsidy at a time. But sometimes it makes more sense to use your portable voucher to get into a tax credit project than it would be to use our project-based voucher. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's just simply an advantage to something that's portable. You can use it at multiple properties, so there's certainly an advantage there. Whereas with 811, it's tied to a specific property.
Right, and the rent is calculated the same. So so there's you know, it's almost indistinguishable.
I have one here that says, not sure if I missed the answer to this question or not. I have a consumer that's already staying in one of the 811 properties. Can I sign them up for the program? Would the process still be the same?
Is this, maybe this is PrAC. Is the individual in an old 811 building where all of the units, all 100% of the units are targeted to people with disabilities? Because if that is the case, then yes, they could be placed on the wait list. And I'm kind of doing some guessing here, but I think that might be what we're being asked right now.
And we do have a list of all of the properties that participate in this 811 program. So the list of property names and locations is available on our website.
Can we talk more about developing eligible, accessible apartments?
For the programs that OHFA administers to build affordable housing, we require that a minimum number of units in those be accessible. Generally, it's 5% of the apartments in one development have to be accessible. The primary way that we develop affordable housing is through the Housing Tax Credit Program. And that's something that's available for real estate developers who want to build affordable housing. And there's more information about that program available on our website as well.
As of right now, that's it for questions. Oh, we do have someone raising their hand. Oh, that might have been a mistake because they lowered their hand. I have a question here. It says, can they help develop a pre-existing home of a person to make it handicap accessible?
No, that's not what, that's something that's, OHFA does not have a program that's for that purpose, no.
What if the individual has behaviors, potential for playing music loud, screaming, and hitting walls?
We have had individuals who have applied for units and actually been offered units, and there have been behavioral issues. I am, and sometimes this will result in a lease violation, and sometimes, several lease violations that end up in a situation where the person then gets notification of, an eviction coming. But we've also had situations where these types of, there are behaviors or incidents, and at least in my system, the SSAs have worked with the property managers to resolve. So one thing that and again, I don't do this work specifically, but I hear from people every day who do. And I think some of the things that they've done are to, ask for a reasonable accommodation, sometimes, asking for a different unit in an area of the building that might be, on a corner or, not located between a few units. And somebody might be more sensitive than another person. So asking to move can be helpful. I haven't had anyone ask for this yet, but I know that, it could be done, is that people could, ask to put some sort of insulation in. That I think we do that in some of our properties. So it's not a automatic hard no that you shouldn't put those individuals on the wait list, but it is something to, again, go through in your vetting process.
Are participants subject to apartment inspections?
I have had one company do that once a month, yes. But they let people know that before they go through the apartment application.
And I have someone asking for Jeanette's contact information, so I'm just copy and pasting that back again in the chat.
Thank you.
As of right now, we do not have any other questions. No, nothing coming up in the chat right now.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Jeanette and Kevin, thank you so much for your time here tonight. Again, this is a program that I love. It's because it focuses on people with disabilities who generally have low income and have a very hard time finding accessible housing. And I love this program. You guys know that. And I'm hoping that the people who've been watching this will somehow connect with it or know someone who might benefit from this type of housing. Again, this is with the Ohio 811, not Ohio 811 program. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact the Center for Disability Empowerment, 614-575-8055, and we'll get you connected to the right people. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks
Before
again,
you
Jeanette
sign off,
and Kevin.
yes, it sounds like my email was incorrect in the chat. So I just wanted to get that corrected for the person that's going to contact me. It's my name, JEANNETTE.WELSH at DODD.ohio.gov. I hope you got that, Jamie. I know I went quickly.
Jeanette Welsh at DODD.gov.
.ohio.gov.
Oh, .ohio.
And then I'll just say thanks for the opportunity of letting me come and present today. But most of all, thanks for all these great questions. I mean, questions like these really make us think. And sometimes, you know, we are able to think ahead of situations or problems that we want to address through the program.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Thanks.
Bye.